Chapter 11. Or Else. Jack and Annie were too stunned to speak. Staring at the bizarre creature, Jack remembered the story of the Raven King, how the king had wanted to be a bird, and how he had stolen a spell from the Wizard of Winter, how the spell had worked only halfway and left him half bird and half human. The Raven King jumped from the window to the floor. One by one, his raven bodyguards swooshed into the room after him. At least 20 ravens came through the window. Soon, Jack and Annie were surrounded by dark wings, sharp beaks, and bright eyes. Once his guards were in place, the Raven King twisted his head from side to side, looking from Jack to Annie. "Where are the 2 ravens who stole my diamond?" he asked in a raspy voice. "What diamond?" asked Annie. What ravens?" asked Jack, his voice trembling. He wished desperately that he still had the Diamond of Destiny to give him strength and courage. "The ravens that came to this castle after raiding my treasure room," said the Raven King. "Where are they hiding?" Jack tried to imagine that he was still holding the diamond. "We don't know anything about them," he said in a low, steady voice. Pretending to hold the Destiny Diamond actually made him feel brave. "You don't know anything about them?" said the Raven King. "No," said Jack. "You must have the wrong castle." "Ah, the wrong castle," said the Raven King. "Yes," said Jack. "Perhaps you're right," said the Raven King. "But are you certain you haven't seen them? They look very much like this one, right here." The Raven King threw his cape over his shoulder and held up an iron bird cage. A raven was held captive inside. "Jack me!" the raven croaked. "Teddy!" cried Annie. "His name is Teddy," said the Raven King. "How charming! I've caught a Teddy. I think he'll make a wonderful pet, don't you?" Jack was horrified to see Teddy trapped in the Raven King's cage. "It's not charming," he said. "It's cruel. You better let him go or else." "Yeah, let him go," said Annie. "Or else." "Or else," said the Raven King. "Or else what?" With backward jerks of his head, he laughed a raspy laugh. As the king laughed, Jack glanced at the floor under the window. He saw the hazel twig. He moved toward it. The Raven King caught sight of him. His laugh stopped abruptly. "Cree-craw!" he croaked to one of his bodyguards. Jack dashed for the twig, but before he could grab it, the king's bodyguard had swooped across the floor and picked up the twig in his beak. As the raven carried it to the top of the window, Jack noticed that one of his tail feathers was bent. "Jack, look, it's Rock," said Annie. She called up to the bird. "Rock! Rock!" From his perch above the window, the raven looked down at Annie. "Rock, it's me, Annie," she said. "I helped you when the people in the village threw stones at you. Remember?" "What nonsense!" croaked the Raven King. "Bring me the stick, bird." Rock didn't move. Gripping the hazel twig in his beak, he stared down at Annie. "Give the twig to Jack, Rock," she said, "so he can turn Teddy back into a boy." "So that ugly little stick is a magic wand, is it?" said the Raven King. "Bring it to me, bird, now." "Don't do it, Rock," said Annie. "Don't let him boss you around any more." The raven stared at Annie for a moment with its dark brown eyes. He looked at the Raven King. He looked back at Annie. Then he swooped down to Jack and dropped the hazel twig at his feet. Jack grabbed it. "Traitor!" the Raven King shrieked at Rock. "You'll pay for this!" He lunged toward the Raven Rock and he tried to escape, but the king grabbed him by the throat. Jack had to save Rock. He pointed the twig at the Raven King's back and shouted, "Oh, hazel twig from hazel tree, make him what he wanted to be." A deafening wind roared through the room. A blinding light flashed. Then all was clear. The Raven King had vanished. His cape lay on the floor. Rock hopped away unharmed. From under the feathered cape came a hoarse cry. "Rock!" Annie lifted the cape and uncovered a tiny raven. "Oh," she said softly. The bird stretched out his scrawny neck. "Ock!" he croaked again. Hello yourself, Annie said, smiling. She stroked the downy feathers on the creature's head. Then she looked up at Jack. How did you come up with that rhyme? It just came to me, said Jack. I knew I had to save Rock, but I didn't want to hurt the Raven King. I think I actually felt sorry for him. So you helped him finally get what he wanted, said Annie. You turned him into a baby raven. Yeah, Jack said. Now he can live his whole life as a bird. Rock flew up to the window ledge. He looked around at the other ravens. It was clear he had become their new leader. Grow, grow, Rock croaked. He stepped aside. The raven troops began to leave the nursery one by one. 2 of them escorted the new member of their flock as he timidly flapped his wings. Rock was the last to leave. He stared at Annie and Jack with a long gaze. Then he lifted off the window ledge and flew away into the light of the silver dawn.